Whoa, 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 okay. All right, there we go, guys. I'm sorry. Now, guys, a lot of this is just review, but I want to get it back in our heads, okay, what we do, how we convert decimals to percents, and then percents back to decimals. It just matters, it just involves moving the decimal, okay? So this first one, it says, write 0.62 or 0.62, 1 and 2.3 is percents, okay? So Alex, you're going to help me on this first one. We'll start with 0.62. Now, this is a decimal, correct? How would I write it as a percent? Okay, what did you do? That's an excellent point. So let me explain what you've said. That the method that we use, we know when we're going from decimals to percents, percents are always bigger than a decimal. Okay? So we want to move the decimal point to make the number bigger so that it's a percent. And we move it two places, always two places. Okay? And that's going to give us 62%. But what Alex really said, and what he explained perfectly, is if you read this decimal, it says 62 hundredths, right? Which is the same thing as a percent. If I wrote that out as a fraction, you can see it's 62 per 100, okay? And so that's why we move it two places, because two places is multiplying by 100. All right, so anyway, we're changing this decimal to a percent by moving the decimal point two places to the right, and we write 62%. Now, guys, something to remember just before we go on to the next one. We can never use a percent inside of an equation. We never work with percents in an equation or in simplifying. Okay, we always convert it back to either a fraction or a decimal. Okay, something to remember. All right, let's look at the next one. Thank you, Alex. All right. The next one, I'll use a different color, is 1. All right? Let's see, Dane, what should let me ask you first, Dane, where's the decimal point? The decimal point is where? I'm sorry, I'm now working on this one right here. Okay? Here's the number 1. Okay? So there's a decimal point right there, correct? All right. Now, if I want to convert this to a percent, Kintaro, what do? I move it twice to the right. Okay, so I've moved it twice to the right, but I've got some empty holes. What do I do with those empty holes, Milan? I put zeros in them, right? Excellent. So now, what is my percent? Let's go ahead and just write it out. Nicholas? 100%. Okay? Now, guys, let's think about it for a moment what that means. If I take the number 1, right, I can write it as a fraction, 1 over 1. And that means that I have all of the whole. Remember, when we were talking about percents, it's part over the whole, correct? And if I have one part out of one part, that means I have all of it. And what percent represents all of it? What percent represents all of it, Julian? 100%. So the number 1 is equal to 100%. Okay? Let's look at the next one. And Spencer is going to help me with this one. Spencer, the next one's 2.3. How do I convert that to a percent? I move the decimal point two places. To the right or to the left? To the right. There we go. Okay, but now I've got an empty hole there, Will K. What do I put in that empty hole? I put a 0. Exactly. And then what percent does that give me, Henry? 230%. Now, this is interesting because how can you have more than the whole, right? Well, we think about this generally when we're talking about percents that are more than 100, we're talking about the way that things have increased. For instance, let's say I made $10 one day. Okay, I'm not getting paid that much, but let's just say I made $10 one day. And let's say the next day I made $30. Okay, I have increased by 200% because I went up by $20, and $20 is twice of $10. I went up by 200%. All right? So that's the way we think about it. Good job. Let's look at the next example.